if you are experiencing that, or you feel like maybe I am in this place where I just don't know what to do, where to go, I'd say that you're in a beautiful place, and we're going to talk through that today. Welcome to the Good Steward Podcast. Chris Evans here. And I want to share my journey from building a $70 million consulting business to losing it all. Together, we're going to explore the lessons of loss, burnout, and redefining success, finding true peace, joy, and contentment along the way. All right. Welcome back to the Good Steward Podcast. Chris Evans here with Mr. Johnny Nel. I'm really excited about this week and what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the dark night of the soul, or other terms that I've heard, or a term I've heard is the wall. See, when you come to this place in life and or business where you feel outside of your depth, and I'm going to explain a little bit of my process, what that's looked like for me, and what the dark night of the soul has done to me, done for me. And oftentimes I think it's something that is a very painful experience, but there really is a beauty in it. And if you are experiencing that, or you feel like maybe I am in this place where I just don't know what to do, where to go, I thought I'd say that you're in a beautiful place, and we're going to talk through that today. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Nel, and take us away, sir.
Chris, good to see you, and welcome everyone. I am excited for this episode. After we did last week's session, me and Chris spent a bit of time just discussing and looking at this specific episode. There's a lot to uncover. And Chris, again, man, thank you for your time, and thank you for exposing all of the intricacies that the industry does not really want you to know. People keep it back, and there's a posture and there's a form of positioning that is portrayed as the norm, and you just being vulnerable and open to tapping into a different side of what is truthfully happening and what people can connect with. Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
The first question I have around the dark night of the soul is, what does it mean to you? Can you maybe just run us through your experience with it and explain what that is?
Yeah. So being at the place where it was so interesting that you said that, right? There was, my life was in business was so much about posturing and position and presenting this thing that really internally was not the case. And so coming to the place, the dark night of the soul, or the wall, for me, that was a place where I came to the end of myself, right? I had the business and all the success and all the things that was I think probably the personification of Chris Evans. And when those things started to be stripped away from me, I came to a place where I felt like I was at the end of myself. I had no control. I felt lost. I felt like I was in a pit. I felt like I was in despair, and just experiencing depression and anxiety, and just a stripping of everything that I knew as my security, the thing that I held on to that I could control and have that sense. It was crazy, man, just feeling like being at this place, so much of my life was about controlling my environment, controlling the visual and the perspective that people had of me, to being in a place that was no longer possible in any form or fashion. I felt like I could even, bring any ability to control what was happening in my life and in my business. And right, because you had the business things of the crash and all those things, the challenges that we had. But then my emotional state and spiritual state and physical state, like I didn't have really the strength to do that. So I think it's also, there is a stripping in it. And it, for so many people, can show up differently. I have known people that it's been physical issues or relational issues that have really brought them into the dark night of the soul. Of course, for me, it was losing what I held as one of the most dear, precious things for me, which was the business success. And so that started that process of being where you can't see, right? You don't know where you are, where you're going. And so there is such an utter lostness that I felt in that process that led, and like it was like a domino effect that led to so many things of what brought me to this place. And I think it's important, if I can just say this real quick, Johnny, there is purpose to the dark night of the soul. And I'm realizing this in the moment when things feel bleak and they feel hopeless and they feel like, God, why is this happening? Why did I lose that person? Why am I going through this ailment? Why is my business in the toilet, or these challenges? I think it's important to know that God is real. God is available. God is for us. And whether it's something that happens to us or God allows to happen. Like I don't fully have that perfected in what that looks like, but I do think that there is a purpose in the dark night, and ultimately comes to bring us to a place of internal change, pointing our hearts towards God and full reliance on God. And it's the opportunity for our lives to be brought into that place where we are connected to who we were created to be. And that is to come to a place where we come to love God with our hearts, souls, and minds. And so, man, I just felt so purposeless in that process. Like, who am I? What am I? What am I even here for? And so looking back, it was really a way for God to get my attention and to bring me back to my first love, which is Him. And for all the things that I've propped up, the masks and stuff that I've put out there, to be stripped away, for my true identity to come out. And what a wild process that's been.
Yeah, that sounds quite rough, man. And well done for pushing through that. Well done for sitting on the opposite side today, looking back at it and being able to objectively reflect and speak on it. And again, man, thank you for sharing and being vulnerable in this time regarding it.
Yeah.
You mentioning the control you identified that you had. When you're doing this introspection, looking at where we're currently at today and thinking back, what would you say was the most challenging aspect of facing that inner reality?
I think it was finally coming to the place where I could no longer avoid my internal reality. I think so much of what I did in the business to make the money and have the success and have the platform was some sort of avoidance of what was going on internally. Like I always had an undercurrent of anxiety, an undercurrent of depression. And I've told this story before where, like I had all this external success, but on the weekends I would be up in my room by myself, away from my family, just coping. And I look back and I see that I used business and I used success and all these things to avoid my internal state. And it came to a head where I could no longer avoid those things. I had to face my reality because, again, the things that I grasped for control, to have some sense of security and maybe prop up that broken identity, those things were no longer available. Mm-hmm. I didn't have that anymore to elevate the broken Chris Evans. And so I think the scary thing was having to face those things and whatever issues were there, right? And to finally get an awareness of those things and maybe admit those things, that admit to the brokenness and the challenges and the gaps that I had in my soul, my identity, my life. And I think, man, that was probably the biggest thing, coming to the end of myself and knowing that I no longer had the strength to sustain what I was doing. Right. And ultimately it came down to sustaining a false identity. And so how that showed up for me, of course, was the busyness. Man, I always had music on, like just anything I could do to distract myself from my internal state, I did. And again, that can show up differently for different people. And I see this now looking back and just kind of having this viewpoint of so often when I see someone who is maxing out their calendar, they have chaos in their life, they are always staying in a place of distraction, usually is because there's internal situations that they're not willing to face because of the fear of what they might find. And for me, it was an opportunity to finally recognize those things, give them to the Lord, and allow Him to start healing those things.
You mentioned something a bit earlier about the mask and completely removing the mask and going behind the mask. And as you can identify these different identities that you're carrying, how did you manage to just strip that away?
Yeah, I think, again, part of it was being in a place where the conditions were right, because it was almost more work to keep it on, to keep the act up. For me, really the only option was to go to God and ask for help, because in my past, like I think I've always loved God, but I didn't need God with my success. Of course, that's why Jesus says it's really hard for people who are wealthy to enter into the kingdom of heaven. It's because of the self-reliance. and the things that the wealth gives us. Again, not that wealth is inherently a bad thing. So for me, number one, I went to God and I asked him for help. It's like, God, this is where I'm at. I am broken. I'm desperate. I need your help. I can't do this any longer. The second thing is I asked the help of other people, like just entering into that place of recognizing I can't do this. I can't carry this. I can't fix this thing, being a fixer. And so I got professional help, mindset coaches, therapy, my wife, close friends, just to process what was happening. And I mean, my tendency is to read and study and do everything I can to learn about the situation. So those were the top three things I did. And also, man, just really allowing myself to go internal, because going internal before meant danger. It was fearful. It was scary, but that didn't work any longer. And so learning to go internal and to process and to learn how to do that in a safe and healthy way was really a big start. Fear, anxiety, all those things. I am not those things. It's okay to experience those things, but it's my job to take those things to God and allow him to come into the situation and help with the process. So I think that was part of what happened in allowing God to tell me who I truly am. I'm not Chris, the successful guru, entrepreneur, millionaire. No, I'm Chris, the one he created with intention, with love, that doesn't need to produce to be loved, doesn't need to accomplish or acquire or achieve to be valuable, just in who I am created, in my uniqueness. That's enough.
Hey y'all, Chris here, just jumping in. I want to tell you about the Good Steward newsletter. If you're not on that, go to chrisaevans.com/newsletter, chrisaevans.com/newsletter, and get on that. It's a weekly newsletter. And I write a lot about my experience in business, growth, faith, family, really all the things that if you're listening to this, I think that you could find a lot of value in it. And it is written by me for you. Go check it out.
And when I started to let go of the false things, the success, the platform, the empire builder, whatever, and allow the new things to come in of who God's called me to be and created me to be and said who I am, that was, I think that was all the difference.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. What I liked about specifically what you just mentioned was truly letting God in. I think a lot of times, and I'm sure for a lot of people listening, it's so easy to just continue to take control. And it's very hard to let go, man. It's very hard to let go and saying, you know what, whatever it takes, I'll be fine letting it go. And it's hard. It's a daily practice. It's not a once-off choice. And I'm sure you can relate, like daily, especially being an entrepreneur, someone running their own business and making their own decisions. From a psychological standpoint, there's an element of non-conformity that's important to that individual. And we all have it, being an entrepreneur. We want to be successful. We want to control our own lives. We don't want to be controlled by others. And being able to see that and pivot from it, saying, you know what, Lord, whatever needs to happen, I'm willing to go through and letting that happen. Just think about it. If you're sitting, again, on the verge of the $70 million business, if you need to give all of that away to follow the Lord tomorrow, man, that's hard. It's very easily said, right? We all think, sure, I'll do it. It's the Lord. But when that faith gets tested and you truly need to put the evidence there, there's only a few that will allow that to happen. So yeah, man, again, well done for taking that courage and stepping into that and really pushing through it. It's such hard choices to make upon hard choices. It doesn't really get better. But looking back at it now, thank the Lord that you've gone through it. What was the specific moment for you that you experienced that you would say, right, this felt exactly like the turning point for you?
It's so funny, man, because I have been historically a very impatient person. I want the formula. I want to know how to do it. That's part of like my goal and desire to study and read books. And so I would say that there was not necessarily a one-off thing. Like it's been a process and it's been a journey, and we're over 2 years now into this. But one of the things that I think really started this process for me. I remember being in my home in June of 2022. This is the mansion. My family was out of town. Like, this doesn't happen often. And I just remember being in this place. I just had a conversation with my business partner that I'm stepping out. He had already stepped out, and he'd do a 30-day sabbatical. And I'm just like feeling at the end of myself. I pull up my messenger, Facebook Messenger. I get this message from this guy, Mike, who I met one time. He didn't know anything about me really, aside from like what he knew about traffic and funnels. And there's just this random message from him. And he said, I just like to share this, man. Like, just like you care for your daughter, my oldest daughter, Liberty, and you love her and you have intention for her. I just feel like God wants me to say that he cares for you and he knows you, and to let go of the things you're holding on to and make room for the new. Dude.
Sure.
Again, like, this dude has no context. He has no idea what's going on. He has no idea my internal state. And I 100% believe that God sent him to share that small message. I get on my room in the kitchen of my house, just wheat. The dogs are probably like, what is happening right now? They come over and cuff me up. But just like, God, you're there and you care for the smallest details. And that's what the Psalm says, Psalm 37, like, God cares about the smallest details of our lives. And he's involved. And so in that moment, he sent that message from this dude. I've had multiple things like that happen where random people, whatever, just shared messages and things have come up. And so there's just been like these little morsels and glimmers of hope of like, okay, God, you're with me. Like, it's been like a sense of daily bread where I postured myself like, God, I need you in this moment where the successful Chris Evans no longer can carry and sustain and do the things that he did. Like, I need you, God. And he met me. And so I had those experiences of very intense immobile anxiety and depression, where I remember Thanksgiving, we had a house full of people, it was like 30 plus people. Dude, I was on the couch, like just immobile from depression, anxiety, and the stripping and the losing of myself. And of course, we talked about my physical condition and my hormones being all jacked. So I had those moments of extremity to moments of, I remember a year later, sitting on the couch of my back patio, feeling overwhelming peace that I couldn't move. Like, overwhelming, dude. Like, it was like a blanket, like a comforter of peace where all I could do is sit in it. And so like having those moments were really indications like, yeah, God's like working and there is a movement. It might not be how I thought it was going to be or what I wanted to be, but God, thank you. And so I think one of the big things to take away from this point right here is to allow yourself to be present and to know, like, again, Psalm 139 says that you can go anywhere. You can go anywhere. You can go to the heavens. You can go to Sheol. You can go to hell. You can go like anywhere and God will be there. He is with you if you allow him to be. He is all presence. And that is real, man. That's a tangible thing that I experienced.
God just works in the most mysterious ways.
Yeah.
And he just knows when to truly interfere and just let you know that he's there. For everyone listening, Chris, it's clear that your faith played a huge role in this process. What would you say for someone that's running a very high-performing business? How can they change their current positioning and start to pivot to a place where they're a bit more receptible to the opportunity of letting go and becoming rebuilt?
I think it's important to know that we are all spiritual beings, and you can see this since the beginning of history and every culture, every society. It's woven through the fabric of human beings. And I believe that we were all created by one creator who loves us and cares for us.
Amen.
And that we were made to desire, and that desire ultimately is to be pointed to God, that he is the one ultimately that can satisfy that desire.
Mm-hmm.
And so recognizing that we have desires and ambitions, those aren't really necessarily bad things. God's given us the mechanism of desire. And so we will never be satisfied with success. Never will we be satisfied ultimately with success. if you're at a place where you feel like, man, like I just keep going to the next level, like I keep looking around a corner for something else. And if you want true satisfaction, I believe from my experience of having crazy success, to never being satisfied, to being at a place of joy and peace and contentment after the crash, after the dark night, where I'm like, how is this possible? How can I live in this place of peace and joy and contentment, having way less? My life is very humble. I sold the mansion. I sold my lake house, right? I don't have like all the accolades really what I had before, but yet I have a fullness that I've never experienced before. And I believe the only reason is because I came into alignment to what God has already provided. And the good news is there is nothing you have to produce or do to get it. You don't have to go make another million. You don't have to buy another thing or get another level. This is the good news of the kingdom of Jesus. Is it's good news to everybody. You could be the most broken, poor person, and it's for you. And that was, I think, the thing that stands out to me. You know, I've studied religion. I've been all over the world. I've experienced many religions and formats. There's just nobody like the person of Jesus. And he is the one that has that fullness. And so I'd say, allow yourself to experience what he already has given to you. You do not have to perform, my friend. You do not have to produce. It is there available right now. All you have to do is reach out and grab it. And so for me, going out and experience, it's almost kind of like the prodigal son, right? The prodigal son in Luke 15, this dude that his father was wealthy. He took that wealth, that inheritance, and went and blew it and came to the place of just utter shame and humility, where he was eating out of the pen of the pigs because he had nothing at the end of himself. And I kind of felt like that. Like I was the dude eating out of the pen of the pigs, you know, emotionally. And God was there welcoming me. He's like, I've got everything that you need. And so our thing, again, you might still have millions in the bank or whatever your situation might be. Accept his love for you. Accept his love for you. That's it. Like you receive it. That's a process. And I think our society and the world makes it hard. Even church makes it hard. And our Christian religious system can make it hard. But Jesus transcends all that. You can come to him right now, any place you are. And I believe he'll show up for you.
Taking that into consideration, yeah, you know, there's someone considering pivoting and maybe they're feeling overwhelmed or anxious. You know, that's extremely helpful. But let's say we have someone that's currently in that season of the dark nights of the soul. What would the top 3 things be that you would suggest in order to help to see perhaps the light at the end of the season and still being able to overcome and push through?
If you are, it's going to be okay. God is available and with you. And I think it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to feel like you're at the end of yourself, because that's the place where God really is going to meet us. And so just allow that and accept that. And I think when you realize that, man, okay, yeah, I feel like I'm at the end of myself, come to God and ask him for help, pray. And so what my process ended up being on a daily basis is every single morning, I went to my office or just got by myself and I just read the Psalms. I prayed the Psalms. Some days I didn't have words. It would just be like, God, help. I'm broken. I don't know what to do. I'm just at the end of myself. And just allow God to come in and speak to you. And he does. Anything that is from a place of peace and joy, that's God. Anything good is from God. And so when we recognize that and we see him moving in our lives, it might be a voice from a person, or I think God can speak through anything he chooses. He can speak through anybody, anything, anytime. And so recognize that God is probably already moving your life. He's probably already shown that he's available and helping. And I think seek the help of good people that you can process with, communicate openly with. There is healing in communication. And I would say even to a level of confession, not like necessarily confessing all your dirt, so to speak, but that could be a thing. But I know that when I would have sessions with my therapist or mindset coach, just in the act of communicating something that was deeply buried brought healing, and I felt lighter. And I think the next thing would be allow yourself to let go. Allow yourself to let go. Start small. It doesn't have to be a big thing that you're accomplishing. All right, that word, like I'm accomplishing letting things go. So what are you holding on to right now? It could be a small thing that you just need to let go of, because I have found so much peace in letting go of the outcome. Now, I'm not perfect. Like, I still struggle with it. It's still a process that I'm in. Be patient with yourself. Have grace for yourself and empathy for yourself. And don't criticize yourself. Don't judge yourself harshly, because these are challenging, hard things to go through. So allow yourself to love yourself through this process.
No, well said. Well said, mate. Looking back at everything, how did this experience begin to shape your newly found perspective on life and on business?
Dude, it altered everything. It reshaped everything. It was like my friend who's passed away, Kenneth, he sent me this picture. I never heard of this, but I guess in Japanese, I think it's Japanese culture, they have this art form where they'll take a bowl or a cup and they'll break it. And it's intentional because they rebuild it. And the product of that is how they do it. There's gold lining or silver lining. It's just a beautiful piece of art. And he sent that to me. He's like, I think this is God. This is what God's doing in your life. And that's true. Like the after product of brokenness and humility, if we let God in, is to remake something beautiful. And that thing has a purpose. Of course, just the beauty of it, the essence of that. But now, even for me to have these conversations with people and help them in this process and my new perspective, like, man, it's been a thing where all the things that really didn't serve me well were stripped away. And so I've allowed God to come in and say, no, this is who you truly are. And this is how you can operate, not from striving and self-reliance, but from rest, soul rest and contentment. And this, from that place, my life is completely different, where I now am not having to chase some level of attainment or accomplishment. Again, not that I don't struggle with those things. And it's not that it's not tempting for me to go out and do that. But for the most part, on a daily basis, and weekly and monthly basis, I'm coming to God to find my soul rest. And so, man, I just operate from so much more gratitude in the connection and deep relationship I have with my kids and my family, and to be who I truly am and just be authentic and vulnerable and not have to carry the burden of posturing and positioning, which is exhausting, man, but to really truly be who I am, that God's created me to be. And all the quirks and the goofiness and maybe the weirdness or whatever, part of those things God has given me, and He delights in it. And so I find delight in it, and to operate from that place. And man, to live in rest and from rest is the invitation that we have. And to live from fullness is the invitation that we have, and it's available to us all right now.
Hey, I want to jump in here real quick, take a break. This is a commercial. I want to plug the Good Steward newsletter. It's a weekly letter that I write from me to you, entrepreneur, founder, owner, CEO, however you identify yourself. I talk a lot about my lessons, a lot about faith, family, business, of course, growing the big businesses, having huge failures. There's a lot that I break down and I share in that. And so I know that you'll get a lot of value out of it. chrisaevans.com/newsletter. Go check it out. So excited to see you in there and in my inbox.
Everyone listening, I trust and I believe that this was a touching subject. If you're currently going through this, if you're currently experiencing this, please do reach out to us. Chris will add the support email below. We'd be happy to have a chat and to see how we could potentially help, whether this is in life, whether this is in business. If this truly spoke to you and you feel called to it, by all means, we invite you to reach out. Chris, if you can leave us with a scripture that would sum up today's episode, what would that scripture be?
I have two. So Psalm 23 is such a profound work, and I've quoted it probably sometimes dozens of times a day. But verse 4 says, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So this is from the perspective of a shepherd. And the thing about this, which really interesting in context, the valley of the shadow of death, there in those shepherds, there were literally like, if you look at Petra, that's like the imagery of this, where if there's a flash flood, like you can come just like that. You don't expect it. So to know that you can be comforted in any kind of circumstance, whether it's something unexpected or not, that your shepherd will take care of you, that you can trust fully and not fear. The imagery of that is so profoundly beautiful and powerful and potent that just take that. And I would just encourage you to think about it and meditate on that. And then Matthew 28-30, I like the message, how it communicates it. Again, this is going back to, we're talking about from the dark night of the soul, allowing your soul to enter rest and that to become your ongoing state. It says, are you tired, worn out, burned out on religion or life, or like you can put anything there? Jesus says, come to me, get away with me, and you will recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me. Watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms. Grace, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company with me and you'll learn to live freely and lightly.
Thank you for taking the time to share this with everyone listening. And guys, stay tuned for the following episodes to come. We are going to dive much, much deeper into the psychology of what Chris experienced and how you could take that experiences and wisdom and apply it into your own life. Chris, is there anything else from your side before we close today's session?
Yeah, just feel free to share this with someone you feel like needs it. We would love that because that's the mission. We want people to be impacted by this story and to find true rest in God, no matter what's happening in life. Amen. So thanks for listening. Much love.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.